Hey everybody, happy Monday. Let me just get the microphone plugged in. Go. Okay, clip it on and we're about to start. So, I'm gonna pick up right where we left off. Hi Linda. I'm gonna pick up right where we left off and see, hi Denise. Hope everybody had a good weekend. And just continue on because I'm hitting that point where I want to finish this one. Hi Nikki. I want to finish this painting and get it photographed and get it off my my makeshift easel here. I don't like to drag paintings out. I just kind of get bored of them. So I'm going to finish it up today with the balloons, the collage we were talking about last time. Hi Jen. We're going to finish it up with the collage and then any other little things that I need tweaking. And then tomorrow I'm going to put the wax on it and then that will be it for that painting. So brand new week, and what are we in, like week 3 or something of house arrest? So wherever we're at, I think it's time that we do a project together. So I'm gonna put my thinking caps on, you guys put your thinking caps on, and then maybe in a few days, maybe by like Thursday, we will have amassed all our materials. We'll talk about it each day, and then maybe we'll do something together. So if you guys have any suggestions about what you want to learn or what you want to walk through together, we'll just do something small so that we can complete it. And then that way anybody who's watching these videos later on will be able to, within the 1 hour, follow along and complete it again. So, hi Terry. So, yeah, so please do, I'll mention this throughout the whole thing. I'd like to, hi Dulce, I'd like to do a project together later this week. So ask me any questions you want to know, or any topics, or anything that we'd like to cover. Is it encaustic? Is it mixed media and encaustic? What is it that maybe, and we'll kind of make a consensus and we'll all do one project together. So like I said, we'll keep it small. Hi Maria. We'll keep it small so that we're all going to be able to finish our painting that day, okay? So don't make it something that you do all the time. Make it something that you would like to learn or you would like to walk through with me, okay? So I'm thinking maybe Thursday or Friday. Give us a few days to come up with a solid plan, amass our ideas, and I'm seeing some thumbs up. This is really good. So I want you guys to help me to come up with a theme for a project that we'll do together, okay? I'll keep talking about it throughout so that those who join us will be reminded of this. But yeah, I'm gonna get going on this because I'm tired of this painting by this point. And when I get tired of painting, that's kind of like, you know, this is when I border on the point of painting over something, because I kind of get a little sick of it. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to draw in and carve in some of those black lines that tethered this these balloons, because after we fix the bird area, the lines disappeared. So I don't know if you guys can hear that ringing outside. Maybe you can't hear it, but it's actually kind of nice to hear. But the church bells are tolling still outside. And it kind of feels a little like old times. It's funny that I'm already calling it old times. There we go. Okay, so now a few lines I've gone off, so I'm just going to draw in a second line so that it doesn't look entirely fake. There we go, my lines are back in. Remember to darken them with a little bit of water, and then to catch the drips, I'll use my paper towel. I have my painting sitting in water down here now because I didn't tighten the lid after I refilled my jug, so I'm going to dry that up as well. Just going to catch these drips. There we go. And over here, I'll catch that as well. There we go. Okay, so a few more balloons. That's what we were talking about last time. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Sophie. Sophie, if you could do me a favor, please. And I can't remember, I think it was you, who had a friend who wanted to know how she could watch these videos. So it was in the comments, I think I was reading, or maybe she personally messaged me. I can't remember, but I think it was your friend. And hi, and hi, Emmy. I just want to make sure that that she knows that she can go to YouTube and rewatch from the beginning at her own pace. Okay, so because she said that she's just catching up now. I think it was your friend, I can't remember, but anyway, so please, if that is you, or if any of you had a friend who asked, or anybody who asked, they can always go to the YouTube channel, and thanks, Sophie, and then just go back and tell them that they can watch at their own pace, and of course you can all watch at any time at your own pace, and go over any of these things. So, yeah, so for those of you just joining, we're going to be doing a project later on together. Hi, Lucy. There you are. So, yeah, so just go back to my YouTube channel, Christina Lovisa's Open Studio. And I think that's what it's called, or Christina Lovisa's channel, or whatever it is. And, yeah, you should be able to watch all the videos back in. My husband's been uploading them in order. So they're not at all, you know, it's not a pretty channel right now or anything. I haven't had time to do that. But the episodes are all there. So yeah, so those of you just joining me, what we were talking about was that I would like to do a project together. So later this week, we are going to do something together, something small, so that we can walk through the whole thing together, answer questions, that kind of thing. And that is something that I thought that would be fun. So I need your input. What do you guys want to learn? What do you want to do together? Later this week, so maybe Thursday or Friday. And then for anybody watching it afterwards, if we keep it all to the 1 hour project because we keep it small, then what'll happen is we'll be able to complete it, and then anybody later will be able to complete it within the 1 hour. So that's not to say you can't take the techniques and things that you learned and just go ahead and make more or make bigger, but tell me what it is in the comments between today and tomorrow of what it is you're looking for, and then we'll put together a little class that we'll all do together. Now, it can't be anything too obscure for those of you who don't have encaustic supplies and things like that. I'm not really sure that we can do an encaustic. We may have to do a special encaustic edition or something, but it should be stuff that we could all do with what we might be able to have at home. And then Tracy, who's watching today, suggested that I do an episode on replacements. So what I'll do during that time is we'll talk about cheaper replacements for things, or what you can use instead of, okay? So that means, like, if I say, okay, gel medium, and you're sitting there at home and you're saying, I don't have gel medium, I can tell you what you can use instead of gel medium. Or like I was telling Tracy that I often shop in hardware stores more than I actually shop in art supply stores. Likewise, dollar store, Walmart, the most unusual little places. I pick up very expensive napkins in some like more high-end stores and stuff like that because they're just spectacular. So that's what we're going to talk about, is just different substitutions and also ways to use up maybe materials you already have. So that's something to keep in mind for the project that we're going to do later this week, probably Thursday or Friday. So keep it in mind, and I'll announce the project by Wednesday. So why don't we do that? So let's plan it for Friday. I'll announce it Wednesday and give you a supply list, okay? And then that way you can start looking for things, and then Thursday I can answer questions what you can use instead of. That's a good solution. So Monday was the announcement. Tuesday we'll talk about it again. Wednesday we'll pick the project. In between, you guys are giving me comments. And then Thursday I'll give you substitutions and stuff like that. And then Friday we're actually going to do the project together. All right, so yeah, so I would love to read all your comments. I'll do it later so I can get working on this, and then we'll go from there. All right, so random papers. So I did decide to glue this one in this morning because I had it stuck up with water and I really liked it. So I decided it was going to stay. Then I have these random papers from previous collages and things that I always just photocopy. So that's where my random papers come from. So yeah, so today I'm gonna just take things that kind of color coordinate, and I'm gonna make a few balloons out of it. I don't need to do them all, I just need to do some of them. There we go. So I'm just putting the paper on top, and I'm just kind of tracing where the balloon sort of goes. I'm not having to be super precise about this because I can paint out the rest or overlap or whatever. It's just so that I have an idea of where this one goes. Got the little tabby thing. There. So this time I traced with a knife just to make my cutting out a little bit easier. So I might have to go back in and trim some of them if I didn't cut through perfectly. Let me find some scissors. Here we go. Okay. All right, I can't wait to see what you guys want to make, or what you want to do. And if there's a consensus, keep chatting amongst yourselves. I think that's great. Because we are definitely forming a little group here, which I think is fantastic. And so we might as well pick something that we can all do, and something that's not going to be too hard to find supplies for and things like that, just because it is hard to get materials right now. Yeah, so let's try and use up things you have lying around the house or whatever. So I was fortunate enough to find a little bit of gel medium that I had hidden away somewhere in my studio. So not a lot, but enough that I can glue on some balloons anyway. I'm gonna get that wet. So glue to glue, right? So my glue to glue is always place the glue on top of where it's going, place the glue on the back of the paper. There we go. And then try to avoid putting glue on top of it. So you have two ways you can push it down. One is with like a credit card or something like that. And then, or I'm just using a baby wipe because it serves two purposes. It gets right in there and it helps me to wipe off any glue that was surrounding it from when I glued it down first. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. And then here's some other papers. So I'll use these. This is an old dictionary, and I think it'll be kind of fun. Okay, let me see. I actually took out the page that says moose, so I'm going to use it right there. Perfect. Tab. Let's see where this comes from up here. Excellent. Okay, so I got another one. Whoops, I should have taken off the top of that one. Let's just guess where it goes. Okay, more glue to glue. How did I lose my glue brush already? Here we go. Okay. Ah, that wasn't a very good glue application. The lid blew right off. I'd like to blame anybody but me, but that was just me not putting on the lid properly. So I find I get very studio lazy, meaning that I let the messes build. I don't put lids on things. Sometimes I forget to wash brushes. How many of you have heard that one before? We forget to wash brushes and then you ruin your brushes. There we go. Now I'm also making sure that I don't bring in any air bubbles. So I'm pushing them out with the baby wipe at the same time. Okay, that's looking good. I like these neutral tones mixed in with the blues because I just find it's warmer. Can I use glue sticks? Because that's all I have in my house at this time. Go for it. We'll talk more about substitutions, but yeah, that'll be a great question again for Thursday about substitutions. Glue sticks will be, yeah, we'll talk about that. So there's definitely things that we'll cover about what works and what doesn't work. And I am the substitution queen because I very rarely have exactly what I need. It's the way I cook, it's the way I bake, and my baking always stinks. I'm really a terrible baker. And that's probably the reason why I don't know substitutions and stuff like that. But the reality is, there we go, let's put this one up here. The reality is in cooking it works, and in art supplies it really works. I guess it doesn't translate across every field, but I'll be able to set you guys up on Thursday with who needs what and who has what and that sort of thing, so that if you don't get a chance to follow along, at least by Thursday you'll be able to know the supply list and then know what you can use as substitutions. So that's a great suggestion, Tracy. I love that idea for art supply substitution, because that's something that I know really well. Here's a fun fact. So the reason I actually got into mixed media, the reason I started mixed media, is because I was given a gift card to an art supply store because I may have hinted to my parents enough that I really wanted to start taking some art classes. And they gave me a gift card, which was a really nice thing to do. And then I went to the art supply store and I walked around and I had no idea what anything was. I thought you just walk in and buy paint and buy a canvas and off you go. But there were so many things. It was just this medium and that medium and this and that, and so many lines and so many brands. And am I buying oil? Am I buying acrylic? What is gouache? Do I like watercolors? I had no idea what I was doing, like completely lost. And because I was completely lost, I found that actually was to my benefit, because I saw that they had on the wall in the art supply store, they had a class coming up for mixed media. So I went and I talked to the clerk at the store, and I asked, I said, you know, I'd like to do this mixed media class. I said, what's it all about? And because I liked the picture that the artist had supplied as her example. And so I said, what does that involve? And they said, oh, you just learn about all different materials and different mediums and all that. And so I wanted to know if it was a set curriculum, or not curriculum, but supply list, or would we be learning about everything in the store? And since it was in the store, she said, well, you'll probably have a set supply list, but you'll be able to ask questions about how to use different things and all that. So I was hooked. I signed up, and the rest is history. I've never looked back. I just absolutely gobble up art supplies because I love them. I think they have there's so much to learn about them. And then once I started to learn about the actual things I was buying and using and understood how they worked, then my next thing was to start to use substitutions, because A, it was really expensive, but B, I just realized that once I learned the properties of what the actual medium or material or paint or whatever it was, what it was doing, and I understood those properties, then I could go ahead and find reasonably priced or more accessible substitutions. So that's how I became absolutely fascinated by the world of mixed media. It was just meant to be. Okay. So I have this one paper. I'm not sure it's going to work, but here's a really great little teaching tool for anybody who hasn't taken my courses before. I have a piece of really wrinkly scrapbook paper. Now, scrapbook paper is generally two-sided, and it's a really not complicated thing. What they've done is they've actually just sandwiched two pieces of paper together. So on one side we have these clouds, and on this side we have these stars. So if you could do a separation, go for it. Just depends on how well they have adhered them together. But the reality is I haven't got the patience for that, nor the time for that. So what I'm going to do is I just sprayed it with water. So by making it, hi Moni. So by making it pliable, right, because I put water in here, now this piece of paper that was really stiff and hard to glue in before is now putty in my hands, literally. And so I'm just going to be able to place it up here and put in the balloons that I want to put it in. So I think on this side, maybe I'll do the clouds balloon because it's a little more, I think the colors go better. So I just have to see where the little tab is. It's right about here. Whoops. So I can't use my knife anymore because it's just tearing. So I'm going to have to use my pencil and then cut it out. The reason it's tearing is because I got it wet, right? So let's just do this, and let's do that. Terrible shaped balloon, but what I'm going to do is just kind of eyeball it and even it out. And so what I want to show you is now that I have this pliable, soggy paper in my hand, it's actually going to glue in much nicer. There we go. It's going to glue in much nicer than had I just tried to glue it down and make it conform to the level of like pliability that I needed from it. So this is actually going to suit it much, much better. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to glue that one in. So again, I'm not being really that precise. I'm just trying to cover up a little bit of what I've got going on here. And then the reason for that is that I can go back in with paint and I can fix and adjust, because those balloons that were first in there were just put in there really fast and not meant really to be the final project. So here we go. I'll just glue that one in. And again, I'm going to use my baby wipe and push out any air bubbles and any excess glue. Wipe any off the top. There we go. You have to be careful that paper is really soft right now, and it will tear very easily. And then over here I'm going to do one of the darker ones in the cloud pattern. So again, I find my little pencil. My pencil is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. There we go. And I'm going to put this one over here. The little nub goes down here, and that goes out there. I'll just push where the edge of that thing goes, and then that balloon comes up here, and it goes like that, and it goes like that. Okay, good. So I think this one, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm getting there. I don't have too many more collage balloons that I'm going to do. Then I'll just pull out the paint and I'll fix up the rest. Now again, I'm not going for like perfect balloons here, because when I work with the encaustic tomorrow, you'll see that I'll be able to make the balloons look a lot more realistic and give them a lot more volume without having to fuss a lot with the paint. Okay, So fussing with the paint is definitely something that I don't have the patience for. Like getting all the shading right and all that stuff. I'd rather just do it with my wax and my pan pastels, which, like I said, I'll demonstrate tomorrow, because it is much faster than attempting to do it with acrylics. Actually, maybe one thing I will show you today, if anybody has any soft pastels, I often will use soft pastels in my artwork as a quick shading tool before I get to the encaustic. So soft pastels are different than oil pastels. This is not likely something that you just have lying around. So if your art supplies are not exactly probably in as great a quantity as I have, then you probably won't have soft pastels. But and oil pastels, like I said, are very different. But I'm going to show you with soft pastels in the event that after all this craziness is over, you might feel like investing in a soft pastel or two. That balloon looks incredible, but makes me think that I need one more over here, right? So, so do you see why that balloon is so incredible? It's because it's like, it totally brings our eye up there from how dark the mousse is down at the bottom. So sometimes I get a little worried about being too matchy-matchy on things, but in this case, it's absolutely working. Like the relationship between the bottom and the top, that was a complete happy decision, I guess, or whatever. Like the two things are really, really working together. So I'm going to put this up here, follow this contour a little bit, and then follow this contour. So this one is kind of tucked behind, so I'm not going to, there we go. I'm going to follow the cutout a little bit closer so that I don't have to do it with paint. And then the thing is, so you saw how not pliable this paper was before. And so once the moisture wicks out of it, dries out of it, it's going to be back to that same rigid state. So what that'll mean is that I'm going to have a height difference between like this piece and that piece. So it's not a big deal, it just has to be really glued down well, and all your air bubbles have to come out, because after when it dries it will actually be a bit of a problem. So we don't want any problems, so we'll just make sure we have it glued down really well. There we go, and I'm going to push it down using my little rewards card. Make sure it's flat. Take my baby wipe, make sure I have no glue on the outside of it. Great piece, because it's not quite black, but it really does tie the two things together. So I'm really happy with that one. This cloud one is way too short, so I need to tuck something in there. And I think I'm going to get another darker one, just because the relationship between that top part and that bottom part are really great. And because we've worked in twos, or I've got it in twos, I'm going to add another dark part so that I've worked it more into threes. So I have another piece here with clouds, so I'm going to use it because it'll be a nice combination. It's just stars. Let's just use the more cryptic part of it. And so I'm going to have another balloon that goes behind here, and that comes down over top of this one. So I'm going to give it a little tab, and then I'm just going to make sure, oops, I didn't come down far enough. So I'll push that one down further, And I'm just going to make sure that it actually does cover that other balloon. I could be making this worse because I'm not really paying much attention here to the contours of the other balloon. But let's just say that I actually get somewhere close. It should look a little better than that gaping hole, which I could have just filled in with paint, and I may have to if this is terrible. But doesn't hurt to try. So you're going to see my tab alignment's really not great, but I can fix all that up with paint and my soft pastels. Okay, I'm going to flip that over and get some glue on the back. Glue to glue. Put the glue where I want it up here. I'm getting it to do a bit of covering, so I'm going beyond my boundaries of what I had going on there before. I'm going to put this one in. That side kind of fits like a charm. This side, not terrible. Yeah, so it's actually better. I could have had to make the decision there to not use it, but whoops, I ripped my little tab off. I'll add that back on. So now I gotta get my baby wipe out and push it in, remove any excess glue. So, and that's not always a necessary step of removing the glue if you're not coating it with wax, right? It's only for me because I'm coating it with wax afterwards, so I need to make sure that that adhesion is really good. And yeah, I think I'm going to do one more balloon up there because I've got some pattern, and then this side has a lot more pattern, so I'm going to do another one up there with some pattern. And I think I'm going to bring more of that neutral color over there because I have a lot of those weird fleshy colored ones which aren't all that pretty. So let's make it a bit more neutral. So that's a good one right there. So I'll see if I can cut this one out. What's nice about having a tissue paper one is that I can actually see through the tissue, so I'm able to get it, whoops, just cut it right with the knife. And I realize that I just left a corner, but I'll show you a little trick for that. So what I meant by that was that I cut it a little short, but that's okay because what I'm going to do is put, like I cut this a little larger than I have to. And I'll put the glue. I can't do glue to glue because this is tissue paper. So I'm actually just going to put the glue directly where I want it, including where I know I cut it a little short. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the excess off just with the knife where I cut it a little large and just flip it over to the top where I cut it a bit short. There we go. So now there's one more neutral one, and I used a piece of sewing pattern that just had those little crisscross lines in it, so when I show you an up close, it's actually a really nice little spot for that. So, and I have an idea for the piece we cut out and from the birds from the other day. So let me see if I can find that, and we'll see if it will work. It may not work. This may be all for nothing, but if it does work, it would be really cool because there'd be a nice relationship between that bird on the bottom and what I want to put up top. So I'm going to place I'm going to place this one, let's do it here, and I'm going to make my own, like a new balloon shape. So I'll put it there. And then I'm just going to cut out a different balloon that has the backing from the other balloon in it. So you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. But I'm going to cover up that one by going a little bit bigger. Cut out a little tab, of course. And then I have to somewhat follow these contours up top. Tab showing through that one. And then over to this side. Oh, that's not a very nice shape. It's a little hard when you do this without paying attention to, like without using tracing paper. So I don't recommend this necessarily as the best technique for being accurate, but we're going to try something here. So I've cut out my shape of my balloon from the cutout from the bird. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do first is just to put a piece of contrasting paper behind it that won't be too obvious or too obscure at the same time, but that reads the right color. So I'm just going to play with my colors a little bit. See, do we like a bit of orange up there? I think we do. So let's use that bit of orange as our piece of paper in the background. Great. So this is what it's going to look like. There we go. I know it's hard to see, but just wait, it's coming. And I am going to put a bit of glue on the back of the balloon itself. Let me keep an eye on time today. Okay, we have 20 minutes. So I'm going to put a bit of glue onto the back of this balloon. Bear with me here. There's method to my madness. It may not work out, but if it does, like I said, it would be super cool to have a nice relationship between the bird and then the shadow of the bird. So I'm going to take that one off. I'm going to glue it to my orange paper. Exactly where I want that. Great. So again, if I can tuck a little glue underneath the paper, that really helps. So I can do my glue to glue, so I don't end up with any air bubbles, because this would be a really bad place to have air bubbles. Okay, so now I'm going to cut out this balloon. And if my alignment isn't perfect, like I said, I'm going to just fill it in with paint. But if it does work, this will be pretty neat. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that the two pieces of paper are glued together really well. Okay, so now I have the two glued together, so I have my special little collage piece, gluing the back because glue to glue, so the whole balloon needs glue now on the back. And where I'm placing it needs, where did I decide I was placing it? Right there, I think. I can't remember anymore. Oh no, it's down here. Right there. my tab didn't line up, so I'm just going to paint over that part because this whole thing was a bit tedious, so I don't want to have to cut and line that up. This would have been an ideal situation for a bit of there we go, for a bit of tracing paper, but in the spirit of doing makeshift stuff, there we go. So we have a white one, and I'll keep the little blue one coming from behind. I'm going to remove the excess glue, but I'll bring the camera in for a bit closer look. But that one's kind of cool because now there's like this little relationship between that bird and that bird. I always love a little bit of repetition in the work, just so that it doesn't seem entirely arbitrary. I'm not talking about matchy-matchy, or just like a little repetition, but it doesn't need to be the same thing. So again, like if I'm going to put like up here, I've got this darker orange now, and I've got a bit of lighter orange in the background, alluding to the fact that I have this yellow down here, and then they're kind of tying together. But because I like that little pop, I'm actually going to, someone was asking me the other day about spray paint. So I'm going to be right back because I'm going to show you one more little trick. Commercial break. I have to get my spray paint. Oh, cool. Okay, I'm back. Plug my microphone back in. Can't always have everything with you all the time. So this is, yeah, someone was asking me about spray paint. So this is the time when I tend to bring in a bit of spray paint, and it's only because the relationship is going to be really good between that orangey red color and this orangey red color. So I remember somebody had suggested putting a red balloon up there, and when I thought about it, I actually questioned if I would like that relationship between those two colors, and I thought it needs to be more orange, but I'm not sure I wanted to do a red balloon, because I thought it just, to me, it was like a bit campy for what I wanted to do. So I tend to use a lot of weird stencils, and that's only because the shape that I'm going to get out of this is not necessarily going to be a 3. Okay, so I don't want a 3, I just want a shape. So I have different stencils of different kinds, like I even have words and things like that, but it all depends on the strength. So this bird is relatively small compared to the whole thing, so I think it can handle a bit more girth, a bit more size, and I don't necessarily want to put a whole 3 on here. So I'm going to get my stuff out of the way so that we can see, make sure that you guys can see this corner, and then what I'm going to do is slide the painting down just ever so slightly. There we go. And is there anything else in the way? No. Good. Okay, so I am using this stencil, and I'm going to position it so that there's a good relationship between that bottom part and this part here. And then what I'm going to do with the stencil is I'm just going to, it's just cardboard. Come on. This water bottle is not working very well. So I'm just going to put a little water behind it to act as a temporary hold. Okay, so it's actually pretty absorbent, so I'll have to give it a little more. So the stencil will actually, the water will hold it temporarily in place. You don't need to buy any fancy adhesives or anything like that. Just a little water. Yes, you can use tape. I just don't have any tape right here. So I'm going to put that there to hold it. And you can also use fingers have too much water dripping down, and I don't want it to affect my things. So the water, I think because what I've done is I've spray painted so many times, I've sealed the back. So I don't think water is going to work for this stencil. And now I can't put spray paint where there is a stencil or where there is water. So I'm just going to flip this over and use the other side, which I don't think it really matters. And I'm going to shake my spray paint. There. So now we have a little bit, and I'm going to leave that flat to dry. So now we have a little bit of that relationship right between this side and that little tiny bit of red up there. I'm always cautioning people about doing too much matchy, but in this case, had I just done like one red balloon or something like that, it would have really, I don't think it would have been good for the balance for me. Sure, Sophie, I'll bring this in. Actually, what kind of spray paint are you using? I use any kind of spray paint I can actually get my hands on. I have spray paints that are so old. This one, let me flip it around. I don't even know what it is, but what I like about this one is that the nozzle doesn't clog. And I think I got this from an art supply store because it's called Vermilion. So I throw out, and at the top it says artist. So yeah, I got this one on an art supply store. So yeah, so the reason that I like that, I used to love buying the let's get in here and see so you can see what I'm doing. So you see this little overspray here? I might leave it, and I might actually clean that up with a bit of paint. Haven't really decided yet. It just depends what will happen afterwards. And then the balloons. Yeah, let's get in here and so that you can see the balloons. You can see that there's just some paper, and they're pretty rough looking at this point. But I'll just fill them in with a little bit of paint and soften them up and round them and that sort of thing. And then we'll be able to get overall a better or not a better, but a bit more of a realistic balloon, but we're not going for, high realism balloons. So I actually might do a different balloon here. Do you see this? This is an awkward, weird thing I got going on up here. I'm just going to do one more balloon. Will I put encaustic over spray paint? Yes, absolutely. So encaustic can, I'm going to turn that around again. Encaustic can absolutely go over top of your spray paints because it's they're all solvent-based paints, and the encaustic will stick really well. So I'm just going to plug that back in, adjust you guys so you can see what we're doing again. Get my little spacer in there, and then turn that. Great. Okay, so yeah, so the encaustic will absolutely go over the spray paint. I have no problem with that happening. That one balloon, we have to deal with that problem because it is a problem. It doesn't look good at all. I'm thinking another blue one over there. So I'm going to use another piece of collage paper, and let's go for one that has maybe a little bit of some pattern in it. So this one has a great little pattern going on. This should look better because, like I said, that I had that weird angle going on, and it's not that I couldn't fix it with paint, but I think I have a faster fix, and that's just put a little piece of collage over it. I tend to use collage a lot as kind of like a faster alternative to fixing a problem. As you notice over here, when the bird was too big, all I did was collage in a smaller, or I collaged in that tissue over top of it after painting it out white, and then put some collage over it. So I tend to use collage, I think, a lot more as kind of a band-aid than always as a first go-to thing. There. So that's so much simpler, right, than figuring out all those lines and where the balloons intersected and what looked good and what didn't. I'm not sure I put glue there first, so I'm going to really have to make sure that this one is stuck, and I'll keep my eye on that because I may have to do a little surgery on that piece. But I do know that the wax is going over those areas. And maybe one more, but so I'm going to show you those soft pastels, right? So that's the last thing we want to look at. All right, 1 second. That's right. Okay, so here are my soft pastels, and these are my quick fix-alls. So these are by a French company called Sennelier, and they are like, I don't know, the colors are just, oh my God, right? So, oh, you could hear all that? Yeah, so Amanda is on for entertaining people on commercial breaks when I disappear. Okay, let's get some color going in here. So, these wonderfully butter soft pastels are excellent for bringing in a hint of color here and there. So, if I wanted to even put a darker yellow right there without bringing in or olive color without bringing in my paint. For me, it's a fast way to add some color to things and a little shadow here and there without having to get the painting wet again. So if I come back in tomorrow and I know I'm ready to do encaustic over this, one of my rules is that I have to make sure before I do encaustic that my painting is entirely dry. So if I find an area and I'm like, oh darn, I wish I had added a bit more color there or something like that, then I would do it with soft pastels because I wouldn't have to re-wet the painting. So let me see if I can put a bit of color in one of the balloons so you can get a better sense of what this is. So if I put in a bit of the pastel over this balloon, I'm going to incorporate the collage, and I'm incorporating the back part that's painted as well. I'm going to put these two things together. I have a lot of different blues going on here, so I'm just going to mix a few things together until I get that which looks great. There. So you can see that that balloon almost instantly looks so much better, and I didn't have to fuss with paint or re-wet the surface. So if you're comfortable using your oil pastels, this is something you can also achieve with oil pastels. I'm just not very good with oil pastels, so I tend to use these a lot more. And then this color is actually great for blending in behind this one balloon that has the starry thing going on. There we go. And then I can give it a bit of volume as well by going around one side, around the back side. So you can see how the shadows and the highlights can come super easily with these things. Oh, here's a good example as well. So I've got this one tucked up here and you can't really see the detail of it, but it doesn't fit very well. I'm just going to make it fit. And then I also don't have a tab, so I'll just draw in a little tab. Again, we're not going for super accurate balloons. We're going for the impression of colorful balloons that are carrying our mousse. I'm just going to add a wee bit of this blue color down into the mousse, so there's a bit of a relationship between the top and the bottom. So it's going to be very subtle, and I'm just blending it out with my finger. But it's enough to carry the, like I said, that color balance and the relationship between the two. And then I'll put that piece back, and then I've got that yellowy color, which that one may be a bit dark, a bit harsh for that. I don't necessarily want this thing to look dirty, right? I just want it to look a little more shaded, a little more. There we go. Well intended. And at the top I have some blue showing through. So smear these with my fingers. And then over here I have this one really weird color balloon that I'm just going to put a bit of that yellow right over top of it, just so there's a bit of definition between those two. And not bad. I have the other background one that could use a bit of a shadow behind it. I'm just going to go in, change that. So if you invest in some soft pastels, you will be, first of all, very disheartened by the price. They're kind of expensive, but they're absolutely gorgeous to work with. And this, I need to get some white going in here. They're absolutely gorgeous to work with. You will love them, but you will be sticker shocked because they don't give them away. I think they're around $5 or something like that, Canadian each. No oil. You can use oil. I'm just not very good with them. So these are called soft pastels, and they're not oil based. And if I knew what they were based, I would absolutely tell you, but I don't know. Maybe the package will say. But they are just called. So they're called soft pastels, but these ones are actually extra soft. And these are by Sennelier. Yeah. So I could sticker shock you with this. I have them from that company, are chalk. They might be chalk. They're so soft though that they feel like you're applying more like a butter than a chalk. Like a chalk kind of crumbles and it's very chalky, like it's hard to describe. These are probably a chalk base, but they add something to it or whatever to make them really, really beautiful. And they are all handmade, which is why they're so expensive. Okay, let me just finish this up because I know that we are done for the day and I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing before I get into wax tomorrow, okay? Because I don't want to have to pull this thing back out again. There we go. Oh, they're so nice. I always forget that I have them. But when I do remember that I have them, I'm always so glad I do because they really are gorgeous and so easy to use. So yeah, if you go to a place where you're able to buy individual colors and build your supply slowly, it's probably the best advice I can give you. But if you do prefer the sticker shock, then it is worth the investment because they really are nice. Okay. And then I do have one weird balloon back here that I'm really not happy with. I don't even know what it is, so I might just collage something, or maybe just leave it. Who cares? Yeah, I'll just leave it because it's just one more background thing, and I don't really need to fuss too much about that. But now you can see the balloons have a lot more volume to them, and I think that they look a bit more rounded already without having to fuss too much. Once I get into the wax portion of it, trying to look for one that I think would complement that natural colored one without being too... Okay, you know what, I have this weird fleshy color in other spots, so maybe I'll try and bring it down inside. Yeah, it's actually working. So, I don't know how. I think it's because I was mixing at the beginning with just like a dirty palette when I came up with the colors, and I ended up with a lot more sort of peachy color than I would ever consider using in a painting. But I think that had a lot to do with the yellow that I was using, so that's okay. So I'll just incorporate a bit of that. I could hide it all, but the reality is there it is, and we'll just deal with it. So, and then I'll bring a bit of a contrasting yellow behind it. These two balloons are sort of blending together. And there, easy peasy. One more balloon that might need a bit more volume is this blue one. So again, just the darker side, we'll get a bit of a shadow and a bit of a shadow behind it. And that's that. So don't forget, you could do shadows and you could do highlights. I'm just choosing to do more shadows in this case because the highlights I'll probably end up doing with a bit of pan pastel over top of the white. Or not the white, sorry, the clear. I do tend to use a lot of clear, if you remember, in my work first. And then once I've got the clear in there, then I can always go back in and add the highlight with a white pan pastel or a lighter color pan pastel. So this is a black, and I'm just putting around this one, again just for a bit of a shadow, underneath this other balloon. And I'm just smearing it out. Okay, oh I know how I can fix that one. Sorry, I just had a great idea here. For fixing this one balloon that was bugging me, I'm just going to, it's actually this one in the back that was bugging me, but now I realize I can just bring this one out a little more and ignore that part. So there, so I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to see you all tomorrow. And okay, so someone's asking if it's going to smear when I apply the wax. Yeah, so actually I'll address that when I get to the wax tomorrow. So it's all in the application, the speed of the applications. So I have two things I could do. One, I could spray it today with a pastel fixative, and a pastel fixative would just hold it in place. Or I'll show you my little technique that I do tomorrow because I can't really be bothered to spray. So I'm just going to do that tomorrow in right with the wax. So yes, you absolutely can, if you're not careful with your application, you can smear the pan pastel for sure. Or like I said, you could just apply a fixative at this point. Anyway, happy creating, and I hope you're all still making tons of stuff, and keep those ideas flying about what we can deal with in our class on Friday. And I'm looking forward to it. I have lots of little small panels around here, so what I'll try to do is set the camera up so it's maybe above the project the whole time, so that you're always just seeing my hands, okay? So I'll rig something up, and we will get to that tomorrow. Okay, bye everybody. Thank you.